Blog Talk Radio.
The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat.
Welcome to Truth Talk.
Those weapons of mass destruction got to be somewhere.
With Paul Webster.
First year, global governance with the establishment of the G20 in the middle of the financial crisis.
And Chance George.
President Bush signed a formal agreement that will end the United States as we know it.
On Global F.A.C.T Radio.
Nope, no weapons over there.
People who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government.
theories.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Maybe under here.
But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in
English. Go ahead. I said I just find that it's in English, so I can read it. I mean, I hate to say that, reading is a skill that I think that far too few people engage in. But anyway, let me see if I can get this file open. My browser crashed, and I would like to get into that. But when I was talking about a period of 2.25 seconds, they weren't talking about the entire collapse. They were saying that during its collapse, for a period of 2.25 seconds, it collapsed at free fall speed. What that means is that all 81 of its structural columns, spanning from basement to roof, had to simultaneously be gone. None of them could be standing. For it to collapse at that rate of acceleration, free fall speed is not a speed. It's a rate of acceleration. For that to happen, it had to happen in such a way that all of those columns were gone. Now, if you compare the computer model of the collapse of 7 World Trade Center to the actual videos of the collapse, they look nothing alike. You got to ask yourself why, and then you have to ask yourself, why won't they allow their data to be peer-reviewed by anybody?
Well, Ainsworth, I mean, let's talk about the people who versus, and I'm not in the spirit of ad hominem attacks, but I'm just trying to establish something here, is that
he did slide one of those in, I think.
What's that?
I think he did slide one of those in.
Oh, okay. Well, no, what I'm just saying is that the people that elaborated on 9/11 and the events were NIST, right? And Popular Mechanics, and they've been reporting on skyscrapers and airplanes for 100 years. So I don't really understand what their motive would be to lie about how the building fell. I mean, so all of a sudden an agency that was accurate for 100 years just decided to come under pressure from the government. And I really don't see how that would unfold. And it's things like this that really diverted me away from the truth movement, because it's just the little details that were never explained, and it's not a viable alternative to the official story. Even if you don't really believe the official story, the script you guys have is just, anyway.
Hey, you're lumping me into the pile here.
No, I mean just the truth in general.
Yeah, no, I get you. Nothing personal. Now you seem open to a lot of ideas and aspects of things. Can we ask you just a couple? We're going to throw out just a couple of conspiracies. Just even a yes or no. Do you believe that there's a conspiracy about, let's say, JFK? Do you think there's a conspiracy, or is that a lone gunman?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, that's a little before my time and yours.
But, for sure.
I looked into some of the motives and things for reasons why, and it's possible, but I don't know. That really doesn't relate to 9/11 here. I see what you're trying to do, but I really don't know, Chance. To be honest with you, I mean, if someone was to covertly assassinate a president, would we know? I mean, I really can't comment on that.
I just want to get a general idea about the beliefs between, the difference between you. One of you is obviously full-fledged 9/11 with an inside job.
I'm not trying to speak for Ainsworth, but I've talked to him in forums before, and he seems very fixated on this whole idea of a controlled demolition, that he almost abandons the political intents behind anything, and the most telling facts of, why was Able Danger covered up? Why, it's those kinds of things that, with a little grassroots activism and exposure, that we can get out to the public and maybe see. I think that you guys talk about a new investigation. I think it needs to be political. I really don't think anyone cares much about the way the buildings fell. I mean, there's so many other things. Anyway, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I'm of the opinion that probably a new investigation won't happen, but I'd like to see one that actually does. I'd like to see the government build a scale model of the Twin Towers and fly scale model planes into them and show what would actually happen.
But you just said a few times, I mean, you're quoting facts and figures from NIST, which I didn't even do because I didn't want to seem too biased in the, So obviously you find them to have some ounce of credibility, and I understand why in the same sentence you will say, you'll quote things from them, but then you'll say that they lied about the investigation and we shouldn't listen to their investigation. I mean, Ainsworth, who would you propose do the investigation? I'd like to know. That's a very good question. Exactly.
I don't know who could do an unbiased evaluation of this. I believe that profit motive.
I'm not trying to cut you off, but couldn't it be said that any agency could be, or any company, or any private corporation could be subverted into lying to the government? I mean, would you agree with that? So who could actually investigate this that you feel? I mean, the way I see it among the truthers is, they want like Alex Jones and Willie Nelson to come and, I mean, I don't understand what you expect to happen. I mean, the people who've been reporting on these things for hundreds of years did the investigation, and you guys say it's a lie. So I don't really.
I find fault with what they did. I find fault with the short public period after they spent 7 years and $40 million to come up with a computer model. I find fault with the lack of transparency of the computer model being not allowed for peer review by any qualified university under the claim of national security. What's the national security issue with the collapse of a building? Unless, of course, their model is fraudulent, in which case then maybe people would be upset about us going to two different wars based on lies. Is that possible?
Well, that's another common misconception, Ainsworth, is that Afghanistan was based on what happened in 9/11, but Iraq was not. Iraq, I mean, they kind of lumped the fear that people had into, Saddam is supporting Al-Qaeda. But what the true motive behind Iraq, if you remember correctly, was the WMDs, which also turned out to be a fluke.
Well, how come
so that's just,
Osama bin Laden was never wanted by the FBI for 9/11?
Well, I mean, if you read the report, I mean, he's already murdered 3,000 other people throughout the world. I mean, what are they?
No.
So if he's caught, what were you going to add on? What, consecutive life sentences? I mean, you got to be.
No, that's not it at all.
David Copperfield to serve that. After a while, it's just all right. When we see him, we'll kill him. I mean, what are you? I don't understand. So they never put it on the report.
Let me fill you in with the answer to the question. When called, Rex Toom, FBI spokesperson, said, "We have no credible evidence against him for that."
Well, I agree with that because he was not the architect of 9/11. He was the
but he was the person that they kept talking about. That's why we went to war in Afghanistan.
He was the so-called leader. He was the black sheep of the family. Him and Bin Laden, the Bin Laden family and the Bush family are in bed for you. I feel like a lot of that kind of the courtesies they gave to Bin Laden, such as letting his family fly out of the country, was because of the previous relationship, which is also something that should have been talked about.
It's because they're business partners in the Carlyle Group, but that just has to do with the fact that oil and money are thicker than blood.
Oh, it's not just the oil. That's another misconception among. It's not the oil. It's the defense contracts. It's all the stuff. There's treatment plants they were supposed to build. It's all kinds of stuff that's really not the oil.
Well, the Saudi royal family has a lot of influence because of the oil.
Okay, so you're saying the Saudi royal family did not. Well,
the Bin Ladens are Saudi royals.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because, to be honest with you, I'm a little. I'd like to talk more about why you feel Israel did 9/11. That's one thing I really want to come on here today because I feel
I appreciate you opening that door. Thank you very much. Are you? Why am I getting buzzed?
Okay. Oh, okay. Hold on. I didn't hit that buzzer.
Okay.
No, I appreciate Evan opening that door.
I'll let Ainsworth.
He asked me a
question.
Go
ahead and mute me, and let's let Ainsworth.
Ainsworth.
I mean, we only have a few minutes left, so.
My first interest in 911.
Yeah, hold on. I just want to inject this real quick.
Hello?
Ainsworth? Hold on a second.
Here.
I got the wrong guy muted here. Now, we've only got a few minutes left. We've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to give Ainsworth a full 2 minutes. Yeah, if you can spend 2 minutes on that, and then we've got a question from the network itself for Evan, and then that would be pretty much wrapped up because that's all the time we've got. So can you give us two or three quick minutes on the Israeli connection that he's bringing up?
2 minutes. On 911, 5 men were detained in New Jersey according to a Bergen Record article written by Paulo Lima. I read that article on September 12th thanks to a friend of mine who had the paper. It was my first eye-opener as to this maybe not being what it seemed. Those 5 men were detained for 81 days. They were then deported to Israel by Assistant Attorney General Michael Chertoff, who was who became head of Homeland Security after doing so. These guys show up on Tel Aviv TV, and you can see it on YouTube to this day, the dancing Israelis. One of them says, well, we were questioned about our actions as possibly Mossad agents, but we were just there to document the event. Now, the event that they were there to document was the North Tower being attacked. They were taking footage as the plane hit the North Tower, not just the South Tower. They were there the whole time. How do you document an event unless you know in advance it's going to happen? Then Benjamin Netanyahu says, as his first words on hearing about 911, well, that's a good thing.
No, let's see what Evan says real quick about that. Evan, do you have any...
Well, firstly, because it's the first thing on my mind, that last quote by Benjamin Netanyahu is taken completely out of context. He did not refer to 9/11 as being very good. That's completely false, sir, because he was asked how the relations between U.S. and Israel are after 9/11, and he said good. Well, not too good, but something to that effect. That's completely taken out of context, like a lot of the quotes I see. Anyway, this whole idea of the 5 dancing Israelis, I mean, it's really they've never been among the truth or war. There's these sites you come across where they say, oh, they were Mossad agents, but that was never. I mean, the guys were detained for 81 days and got deported back. They worked for a moving company. They were film students. They filmed the attack. Apparently, either someone called them or they saw it or something and stopped and filmed it. And everyone made this thing about it. I find it to be a complete red herring and a huge distraction for any progress the truth movement could have on 9/11 and getting to the bottom of it. I really think it's a huge red herring. And I was hoping, Ainsworth, you briefly get into the history between Israel and the U.S. and why you think that a country that relies on all kinds of billions of dollars from the U.S. and the United Nations and the weapons and military upgrades we give them, I want to know why you think a country like that would risk all that. And I don't even know for what, to be quite honest. I mean, what was their motive? And I'd like to get into that briefly.
First things first. This is how the New York Times reported what Benjamin Netanyahu said. The former prime minister replied, it's very good. Then he said, he edited himself, well, it's not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy.
Okay, well, that completely contradicts what you just said about Benjamin Netanyahu referring to the murder of 3,000 American citizens.
That's what I said. He said it's very good. That's what his first words were.
And we could rewind the show after this is over, but what you first said was, oh, after 9/11 he said it was very good. That's
his first words. That's
said.
what the New York Times said. I'm consistent. His first words were, he replied and said, it's very good. Then he edited himself. Well, not very good, but it will generate immediate sympathy. That's from the New York Times.
What was that in context to?
That's the New York Times reporting about Benjamin Netanyahu on September 12th.
But it's in context to the relations between U.S. and Israel. It's not to 9/11. He's not saying 9/11.
Yes, it is in context with 9/11. That's exactly what it's in context with. Jeez. There's not a lot of time. You asked me some serious questions. Let me get to them. In 1954, an event most people in the United States don't know about took place. It was called the Lavon Affair.
All right.
Are you familiar with that?
Right there, yes, I am. I actually am, and I actually know about it. And what you got to remember, well, let me just say, I'll sum it up for you real quick. It was a failed Mossad operation where they were trying to bomb a U.S. I'm not really sure, an information agency or something to that effect, and it didn't even cause any deaths or injuries. It was a dirty bomb.
I didn't want to harp on it.
Anyway, now that we all know what it is and we don't have much time, I'm not trying to rush you or bully you here. I just want to know what does that say about something that happened 50-plus years later about 9/11? I don't really understand.
Wait a second, and let me finish my thread. Okay, so they wanted to bomb American, Egyptian, and British-owned targets. That's not the actions of an ally. Now, in 1967, during the Six-Day War, an American naval ship was brutally attacked by the Israeli Defense Forces. It was not a mistake in the fog of war. They attacked the USS Liberty in broad daylight while it was flying a big American flag, and after the first one got ripped and burned, they took that down and put up even a bigger American flag. The ship was clearly marked as an American naval ship. It had been surveilled by the Israeli Defense Forces repeatedly before that. What they learned on that day was after they killed 34 American sailors and wounded 171 others and turned an American naval ship into scrap, they learned that they could kill Americans with impunity. They didn't forget that lesson.
All right,
were they involved with the attacks on this nation, on 9/11? There's a lot of evidence that points in their direction as being complicit, including so-called Israeli art students that had construction passes to the World Trade Towers.
All right, Ainsworth, can you sum everything up? 1 minute, one final minute from you, and then one final minute from Evan. 1 minute on your overall take of the 9/11.
My overall take on this is that the nature of the government stalling investigations, the nature of what we haven't been told about the truth about a great many things that happened that day, and the fact that it has changed geopolitics worldwide and caused thousands, or if not hundreds of thousands, of deaths since then, based on a story that's not true, bothers me. I would like the truth about 9/11, and I hope anybody in their right mind seeks the truth about this and a great many other issues that cause this world to be a much less safe place to live in than it could be if it was otherwise.
All right. Okay, Ainsworth duly noted everything he said, but, it seems like you've already made up your mind, so I don't want to confuse you with the facts here. But the fact is, 1954, the Levant affair, they even ousted that guy after that. The Mossad was a new operation at the time. It was bound to screw up. It's not like the OSS was perfect right off the bat. Things happen, and it wasn't even Israelis that did it. It was Egyptian people. It was Egyptian agents working for the Mossad. So it's not even like it represents the whole of Israel, and they have this anti-American. And the other thing he talked about was the USS Liberty incident, and that was in 1967. The U.S. and Israel had no formal military agreements or treaties at that time, and they're in the heat of a war, a six-day war. Now, my question to you, hypothetically, is why is the U.S. committing such an unfriendly act against Israel during this time? And they did admit that they bombed the ship, but, okay, you make it out like they committed the perfect crime and they learned they could kill Americans with impunity. They ended up having to pay something like $30 million in reparations to the victims and the material damages to the ship. So who benefited off that? I really don't understand. And you know what? And they did whitewash it, and they did kind of forget about it.
All right. I could let you guys go back and forth for hours and hours here, but we're literally like 1 minute away from ending the show. So first and foremost, I would definitely like to thank both of our guests for coming on. Ainsworth and Evan both put their money where their mouth was, so to speak. It came on the show and took the debate from the Facebook wall of a lot of mudslinging and name-calling, and they brought it on the show, and they both got some intellectual points out, and it was a really good debate. So since we're down to the last minute, we're going to try and play a song. I got this one queued up. Okay. We're going to play one of our little intro songs. It's 30 seconds long on the way out the door. It's one of the quotes that Ainsworth even brought up earlier. So once again, we'd like to thank both of you for being on the show. It went by so fast. We could maybe get you guys up for a part 2 or something like that. So thanks a lot for being on the show. I'm on Truth Talk Radio. We're on Global F.A.C.T Radio. Tune in on Sunday for another show, and we'll be back live again next Wednesday.
And now, the 9/11 Files.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories concerning the attacks of September the 11th. Malicious lies that attempt to shift the blame away from the terrorists themselves